All right, we are live. Hey, Christy.
Hi, Queen.
Hey, Facebook. Welcome to Hard Conversations with Queen. And today, this truly is a hard conversation for me. So, starting out, I want to just take a moment to acknowledge the passing away of Chadwick Boseman. I was just telling Christy before I hit live on the broadcast that his passing away hit me in a way that I did not see coming. And I'm guessing that much of my community feels the same way. It feels a lot heavier than just a regular day passing. It's not, and I don't even think it has anything to do with how he passed from cancer, colon cancer. um, but the impact that he had on Black people and how we see ourselves represented and presented. And he was a voice that spoke to and spoke for um, how we see ourselves, the highest vision that we have of ourselves that is often stamped out, not heard, overlooked, misconstrued, or um, silenced. And so my condolences go out to the Black community, his family, and to the world, because we lost a very powerful voice, a very conscientious human, and I am so grateful that he left the work behind that continues to speak. Even yesterday, last night, I just started watching some videos of him, and one of the show movies that I had not been able to watch, and I still didn't get all the way through it, but I have gotten halfway through it, and I haven't been able to watch much because of my sensitivity nowadays. Was uh, what is it? Four Bloods, I
Mm.
believe it's. Um, And that was a powerful work right there. And I think that's why I was only able to get halfway through it, because we're still living in it.
Right.
We're still living in uh, the challenges that the Bloods were going through way back then as they were fighting on a foreign land, um, and at home at the same time.
Right.
So, yeah, I just wanted to like um, honor him in this moment. And because I think much of that mixed in with all that is going on, and it hasn't just started. We know that. But I must tell you, as a Black person, the disappointment sets in from time to time and hits me in different ways. The disappointment that we're still having these conversations,
Yeah.
and that they are not conversations in which we agree that the essence of life, right? Life itself is what is sacred, and we must protect it at all costs, and we must pull down anything that rises up against life,
Mm.
to include racism. And so it's a disappointment that we have yet to come to the um, conversation of life. We're not even able to have that conversation yet, because we haven't all agreed as of yet on its value.
Right.
Right. And so today I want to talk to you, Christy. By the way, Facebook, if you if you don't remember Christy from another round of Hard Conversations, we go back and look at them there. We had them in June. You'll find them at hardconversations.live. And so she's joining me again, and it's always a pleasure. Always a great voice to have the conversation with. Why? Because she will come. She'll come just as she is, and roll with whatever comes, in a heartful way and a transparent way. So thank you for joining me again today, Christy. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah. And you have a lot going on right around you. So why don't you go ahead and share that with us so they understand how we're coming into this hard conversation. And as you, before you share, let me also say to you, Facebook, hard conversations with Queen, sometimes messy, always real. We have conversations on here just like you have conversations at home. We don't prepare for this. We don't talk ahead of time. We show up with whatever I throw out there. And usually, and I'm waiting for, okay, what are we going to talk about? So oftentimes I throw it out there like a couple minutes before we get on. We don't know how each other is going to show up, just like you don't know how you're going to run into that coworker. You don't know how your family member is going to, what side of the bed they're going to wake up on. But yet we're faced with all these hard conversations during this pressing time in history and in time and space. These hard conversations that are often uncomfortable. And we often are stuttering our ways through because we don't have the answers. We don't always have the words or the articulation. Yet we need to show up for each other and have these conversations because they need to be had. So, Christy, if you can share what's going on in your world right now so that we can just have our launching pad for Facebook.
So I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I bought a house with my wife. I believe it was the week before George Floyd was killed. And it was like where he was killed is like 4 blocks from the new house. And so I'm, been in Minneapolis for 7 years, and I think I shared with you in the last conversations that when I moved here, I felt very liberated to be out of rural Tennessee and thought this is a great place for people to live. It's so diverse and inclusive. And, there's, I was probably here 3 or so years before I realized that this is like one of the worst places for Black people to live in the United States. Like that we have the gaps between the white experience and the Black experience are horrific. And a lot of it is at the hands of the police department. There's a lot of history there. But I lived here for years, for probably 3 years before I found out that everybody wasn't having this really great, it's a great place to be a gay white woman, and so the last few years, things have happened. Several things have happened, but this is the first time it's been in my neighborhood that it's a different experience to see this community rise up and demand change. And how I think what's hit me the most is seeing how complicated it all is. Because I think in the past, what I wanted to say was like, we just need to fix this. And there's all of these layers. And the solutions are going to be hard. They're hard to find. And there's a lot of little pieces. There's there's been a sort of a violent streak going on in our neighborhood. There's a lot of gunshots and people, every few days somebody gets killed, but like, I'm still fine because I'm white. The police come and I'm not scared. I don't have to be worried. There's like, I still am in this bubble of my whiteness in this neighborhood that's in crisis, still being fine, totally fine. If I didn't want to be affected, I almost wouldn't have to be, I could, you know, just be here and be fine, not even really feeling it. And some people are so fine that they're complaining about what's happening, you know, I'm at least not in that place. But today I got, right before we got on in terms of this day, right before we got on the video, I got a call from my wife at work, and she works at a hospital downtown. And she just said, hey, there's supposedly some kind of rally. People are going to be heavily armed, and it's at a location downtown that's right next to her hospital at the same time that I'm supposed to pick her up after work. And she said, will you find out what's going on and let me know? And so I'm going to do that after, but it's just sort of, again, like, we had an incident. Okay, today is Sunday, so I think this was Friday, but it might have been Thursday. There was a shooting downtown. The victim died. The shooter was being sought by police and was tracked down. And when the shooter was tracked down, they died by suicide on the street. And the rumors spread in Minneapolis that there was another police killing of a Black man on the streets of Minneapolis. And downtown just went, it just lit up. Like, the people just descended. There was violence. The police really escalated. And a lot of the local Black Lives Matter folks came down with video, because it was all, of course, videotaped, but they weren't showing it because it was so violent. But they were coming down, and the police were sharing this video with leadership in the Black Lives Matter movement to say, like, help us, can, you know. And so, like, then another group of people comes in to try to say that's not what happened. It's not what happened. It's not what happened. But so that one person wasn't killed by police, but like every day, everywhere. And I think that people are just not okay, and haven't been okay for a long time, and just keep getting more and more and more not okay. I don't know. It's really complicated. It's all really complicated.
It is.
And my heart is so broken about, you know, people's experience. I learned from our last conversation, one of our last conversations, not to make assumptions, that I can't possibly conceive of what someone else's experience is. So that's been a real gift to me, to just observe from my perspective and not make assumptions about how people feel, Black people feel, other people of color feel, you know. And so when I saw the news that Chadwick Boseman died, I didn't even know he had cancer. I don't know if other people did, but like, again, like, I didn't know he was sick. It was sort of shocking, you know? Yeah. And like, it's not one of my personal like superheroes, right? Like, my heart was like broken, because I know that so many Black people's lives are like on fire already. And this just feels like, I was like, 2020, like, can you just stop? You know, like, can you just stop? Yeah. It just feels it just feels so like we're just 400 years past unfair. And I just don't even know how, if I'm being honest this weekend, when I'm like, it's like, I don't even know how this gets better.
I've been in this conversation for the last week. Yeah, not even a week yet. And, you know, I had the 31-day racism rehab program for white women. And we did that the month of July. And I saved one day until this past Thursday was our final call, because I realized it needed to be a little longer. So we added in several weeks for people to be able to kind of exhale, you know, and then we come back together to see how we're integrating back into the world. And because, you know, things shifted. And then I got on a call with some other master coaches and a group that I'm in. And, you know, we had some conversations around this. And one of the things that was hardest for me to do in the program is, after we had gone through all of that, to admit, I'm sorry, there's not much you can do.
Yeah.
Right? It's not much you can do. And whatever you do, the likelihood that it'll have real impact on this system based off of historical facts, okay, is slim to none. And many people would argue with me over that. However, they would have to also argue with, why is it that there is no difference today from when King was in the street marching?
Right.
The same things are happening today that was happening then. Right? The same pictures. It's just that now they're in color and now it's on video. But same pictures, right? So having to admit that, and I think my internet might be lagging. I see a little lag in it. So if it freezes, just hold a second. We'll come back.
Yeah.
But having to admit that was pretty hard because there was so much hope built up that if I just learned this one thing, if I just understand this one thing, if I just change this one thing, if I just get this tool, and it can be a very dampening and disappointing truth to have to face. That this ugly, big, monstrous, whatever the name is, thing called racism, which is a system, right? Which was built to last, right? It was built to last. These were intelligent people who built this system. They knew what the outcome was that they wanted. It says right there in the preamble, in perpetuity, our children will be able to benefit in the same ways we have. Their lives will be the same as ours are. They knew what they were creating and they created it well. They made sure they put it in writing. They made sure they put it in laws and legislation, in the systems themselves, that everything was built accordingly, right? So this was, we have to understand, it was built to last. It was built to be impenetrable. It was built that way. So that's a hard pill to swallow when you're out marching in the streets and you're trying to do meaningful work to impact, right? So after I've just said all of that and probably brought everybody on down, let me share with you the hope that I found. I start looking at how we talk about these things and how we talk about the people who march and the people who vote and the people who run for office and the people, all the heroes, which is why I believe it hit me so hard with Chadwick. Because in the Black community, every time we produce another crop of heroes, they are taken from us one way or another. I'm going to get off that real fast before I start crying.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that right there, just saying that, just touched something. But the way that we talk about King, Dr. Martin Luther King, Reverend Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King, we talk about him. Well, first of all, he's weaponized, right? He's weaponized. And you start hearing all of the people want to quote him on, you can't drive out hate with hate, you know. Then they use Gandhi, be the change you want to see, right? All of these things that we weaponize. And so I would get really upset about that, especially when I see it from specific people who I'm like, you never post anything pro
Right.
Black anything. Everything you have to say is anti, right? What's wrong with Black people? Why Black people? If they just do this, if they just do that, oh, there's nothing really wrong. Until you need a spokesperson to get your point across. Then you go and you get King, or you get Gandhi, or you get someone who perhaps I would venture to say would not be in agreement with you.
Often, yes.
And so I said, they have been weaponized and they've been spoken about perhaps in the wrong way. So we talk about King and we say that he brought about change, as if he brought about change in the system. So we're led to believe if you want to change the system, you do it peacefully and you do it this way and you do it that way, the way he did, the way they did, the way our leaders did, as if they actually brought about change in the system. So see how they flip that on us? Right? This is how you change the system. You act like this, you behave this way. Because see, look, this is how we got changed so far, but we see today that we haven't gotten changed. So somewhere there is a lie that has been told.
Right.
And so I'd like to reclaim the work of my ancestors and our leaders. And I venture to say that the system is the system and what we see is the truth. Just like no one else before them or after them has been able to change the system, and the system still remains, and the things that they walked and marched and fought for still happens in the streets today. We're still having lynchings and police violence and poverty and all of that, health disparity, economic disparity, and all of that. All of those things are still going on. That shows us that the system still remains intact. So they didn't change it.
Yeah.
But what they did as they fought that Goliath is they impacted the people around them, and those people were able to change themselves. That's where the change came. As they fought this Goliath, they did it in such a way that it caused people to see themselves differently, and it caused them to see each other differently. It caused them to interact differently with one another and with themselves and even with their deity. Because many people's deity is racist as well. Right? So it caused people to start shifting in their thinking, and their thinking started shifting, and their heart started following suit, and then their feet started following suit, and then their mouths start following suit, and then their hands start following suit. And so that's what changed. The system did not. And so what I encourage the ladies to do is to utilize the opportunity, because we still have to do something meaningful so that we feel like we're at least courageous enough to stand up to Goliath, whether we're going to win or not, right? So we still have to do things meaningful. So as we do those meaningful things, utilizing our values to do it, right? Being led and guided by our values. As we do those meaningful things, understand that we're shooting for the stars, but we'll land on the moon. The system will remain. Like, we're not going to change it, but the people around us will have opportunity to change. Now, when I say the system will remain, I didn't say the system will remain forever, because what we have learned through history, if we look back over millennia, every kingdom that does not serve the people and does not work, it collapses.
Yep.
On its own, it implodes or it explodes, but it cannot stand. It collapses. So this system will collapse.
Yes.
But my concern right now is, will we be a type of people who can live in a new system when it does?
Right.
Will we be ready? Right? Will we have the kind of hearts? Because, if we were handed the keys right now, even if, and I hate that even have to say this, but it's true because of the conditioning. if if the keys were handed to many Black people right now and said, here, go set your people free, they would go, oh no, I'm scared of them. No, they're violent. I can't set them free. If they were handed the keys today. So my concern is, will we be the type of people, will we be the compassionate people, the loving people, the caring people, or will we just start this crap all over again when the system falls? Because we're not the type of people who can live in a different type of world. So our title today was what? Racism. How does racism affect how we relate to each other? And so that's what's been on my heart, is how we relate to each other. Because if everything changed today, I'm gonna tell you, if that system fell today, I got neighbors who I do not trust to have my best interest in heart, because they carry racism within them.
Right.
So the system can be gone, but they're gonna fight to keep it alive, just like they're fighting to keep it alive right now.
Right. And I think that's the thing, that the work you're doing, the work I'm trying to do, like, I'm not going to change the political system. I'm not going to change systemic, white supremacy, the structures. I'm not. But if I can wake up to what I told you in one of our previous conversations, is that I wasn't like doing things that I can recognize were like actively harmful for quite a while now, but that my business was like kind of colorblind. Like, I wrote a whole book and published it without ever wondering how it might land for a Black person, because it didn't occur to me. Now, I don't think I'm in a good place to write a book about my topic for Black people. Like, I'm not that, but like, I didn't even wonder if I'm being honest, it didn't even cross my mind. It did cross my mind. I write with awareness about class, because I've worked with and I've lived in different class systems, and I have that built in already because of that experience, but didn't occur to me. And since our talks, I've just obsessed with that, how that will change in the rewrite is for a new edition. It's like, didn't cross my mind. So now that I am thinking about race, and now that my clients, a lot of them are thinking about race when we didn't used to have to, we were raised that race, it's not really a thing for us, because like, we're what the system was made for. That changes the way I respond to other people. It changes, I think it has the potential to shift the experience that the people in my neighborhood have of white people. I don't call the police, I don't know what would have to happen for me. I don't know where the lines are. I just know I haven't been up against them in a long time, because of what I've learned about what could happen if I did. Everything about the way I relate to people around me has changed. And I don't know about the way that's going to affect, a Black neighbor's experience. But I do know that I have become less harmful and will continue to work to be less and less harmful. And if we can shift culture from that place, if we can get people to wake up and recognize that color is real and that we can see it, and that if we do respect different cultures, that we can, as the people who enact and execute white supremacy, we might not be able to make that system go away, but if we're not here holding it up, it has less power. Mm-hmm. And that's what my ignorance let me do. It let me, without even recognizing it, it let me hold that system up. So maybe I can't change companies, I can't change policies, I can't change politicians' minds, but if they have an expectation of me and they have bred me as someone who will hold up their system, mm-hmm. and I refuse to, then that system will inherently become less powerful. And I think that, like, 2 years ago I wanted to change it, and now I just want to deflate it. Like that's, I think that's really the max of what I can do, is just to give it the system less power by refusing to be a part of it in all the ways that I can bear to do that.
Mhm.
It's like the most you can even, it's like the most.
Yeah.
And it's nothing, but it's like the most I can imagine.
Yeah, you know, I read some, I can't even remember where I read it, but it was a really good meme. But what it was alluding to is, guess what? The system doesn't need you to exist. Like it literally would exist without you,
Right.
because that's the way it's built,
Right.
right? Um, and we tend to think that the system um, is closely connected to particular people or particular um, um, jobs or what have you. Like we always say politicians or political people. Even if they weren't there, the system would still be. See,
Right.
I have not heard of a politician yet in my lifetime who has gone into politics who did not want to change the system. But again, it goes into, you add the people to a bad system, it will ruin people. And we see
Yeah.
that time and time again. Well, when we add good people to a bad system and it ruins them or twists them, right? Then we look at those people and we say they are the system. And to again go back to making it me against you or us against
Mm-hmm.
them or what have you, not understanding, no, the system is the system. So stop taking it so personal. Like,
Right.
stop taking it so personal. The system is the system. We've inherited it, so we've got to take ownership of it, but stop taking it personal. Ain't nobody say you built it,
Right.
right? Nobody's claiming that you built it. And nobody's claiming that it just got built within the last 5 years or within your
Right.
lifetime, right? And so it's your fault because it was built. No, but what we are saying is, why are you fighting so hard to keep it alive? If it
Mm.
wants to die itself, right? In response to the feedback of the people it's supposed to support, why is it so important for you to fight to keep it on life support, fight to keep it
Mm.
alive, to fight to keep it safe? Why is your allegiance with a system versus with other humans,
Right.
with the wellness, the well-being of humans, of humankind, right? So that's the disappointing thing, is that we've not yet gotten to the point to where we are all human, meaning we do not connect ourselves to something other. We don't have allegiance to something that we've created, right? We don't, that's like us creating something and then worshiping it, which we have and we do, right? But this is just another symbol of that. We create something and then we worship it, even if our even if our right to worship it means that we kill our brothers and sisters.
Ugh. Yeah.
That has been our history. That has been our history
Mm.
uh, for much of the history that we are aware of. Most, if not all of the history that we are aware of. And history goes back farther than 2,000 years.
Right.
So we are in a pickle, right? We are. However, there is a premise from which we can start. And that is, life is valuable, worth living, worth supporting, right? life, right? The sustaining of life, all life, right? So if we can just start there, right? If we could just start there. And this is the thing, life does not have a color.
Right.
That's the hard part about this. I think this is the stickler that people can't get past. Life does not have a color, but it does come into bodies that have
Right.
color to them, right? But life
Right.
doesn't have a color. So if you think that because you are putting a black body in a body bag, that you didn't just destroy life,
Life.
the life that you say that you value, the life that you say that is above all, in all, throughout all. I'll say it again. When, talking about, usually when we think of life, the bigness of life, like that concept of life, the breath that we have no idea where it comes from and where it goes. And we often say that that's God, like that is a representation of God, that essence, that spark that causes a baby to cry when it comes out, right? That causes a body to go limp when it leaves, that spark. We usually all agree that that comes from something greater than us, and we usually call that God or a greater being or universe, something greater, right?
Yeah.
And we have a type of respect and awe for that.
Right.
And so I said before when we were talking about George Floyd, I said, if you want to see that, if you really value that, you want to see that, you want to see God, he was up under the knee of that police officer. You saw
That's right.
him
That's right.
and you saw him leave
Yep.
on
And
film.
yes, and I think that white supremacy like the system is created knowing that, which is why we're separated and why we're taught white history and why like I think for a long, long time when blackness came into my consciousness, it many years it was just through trauma. And I was devastated by what I was seeing. But then, like, for lots of years, that was the only way it came into my bubble was Trayvon Martin is killed, was, all of these violent experiences. Mm-hmm. And then when I started to more actively educate myself, it was like all of the complicated parts about culture and the political stuff, redlining and all that stuff. And I was like, whoa. And in the last maybe year or two, as I've started to kind of take on more intentional education of myself, mm-hmm. I'm starting to see Black culture and all of the beauty. And like my feed over the weekend was full of people that the hashtag was Black Joy. Mm-hmm. And like it took me 10 years to get to from the part where I was like seeing Black trauma to get to the point where I was even exposed to Black joy. And just to the gift of working to release these ideas or to sort of, deal with my own internalized white supremacy. It took so much time for me to see, and I don't even have any illusions about fully seeing Black people still, but my goodness, how I thought I did when I saw, oh, this person was killed by police or this faux police person, or it's happened again, last week in Wisconsin, this person who's given themselves the authority to kill a human being. Like that was like, I thought I was seeing. And now I'm like, oh, look, these people got married. Oh, look, these people had a baby. Oh, look at this little person dancing. And not from a consumption perspective of like how talented these athletes are, but just like people just living their lives the way I live my life, and I can sort of liken it to like people say the gay agenda, and we're like, yeah, get eggs, do laundry, like we're just normal people, right? And I'm a little, embarrassed to say that for a long time I never could even take that and apply it to, Black people. Like, they're just getting eggs and doing laundry and getting killed because they're on the street or in their own beds. I don't know. The humanity. I wish that the first person who ever told me about white supremacy had said that the way forward is to find humanity in other people, all other people, and to not walk through the world thinking that my experience is the only one that exists. And the art is really, Black art has helped me see movies, poetry, novels, has all helped me understand how blind my society set up my life to be intentionally to your life. Intentionally. Because if I don't know who you are as a human, I don't have to be concerned about your welfare. I don't have to, I can blindly enable white supremacy with my just living every day.
That, the term white supremacy seems to be very offensive to white people, right?
We're easy to offend.
Very offensive to white people. Now, we say white supremacy. That is an actual system. It's a construct. It's a philosophy, right? But people get offended by it as if we call them the N-word, because that's not a system, a philosophy, or no, that's a direct person.
Right.
That's on your person, right?
Right.
And we still have white people wondering why they can't use the word, since they're using it in songs now. Why I can't say the word? Everybody else can say the word, right?
Yeah.
But you say white supremacy, and it's offensive. Just like when you say racism, it becomes offensive. How is that? How is a system that was here before you ever got here will continue for as long as it's able to, continue before it falls? How is all of a sudden that's something that you even have a right to take personal? Like, you even took that, which goes into what it was created to do, is to make you feel like you could take ownership of everything. Right. That's what the system is set up to do, to make you feel like you can take ownership of it. I don't know how many people have called me racist over this last week, just off of my 31-day racism rehab ad, because I use those words. And because I said it's for white women, so I must be racist, because I'm assuming every white woman is racist. Now, that nothing in there said anything like that, right? Now, I'm bringing up that this is because, again, this is on how does racism affect how we relate to each other. Now, immediately, again, there's some people on there that's just like, oh, you're racist. Oh, this is bull. You were trying to make white people feel guilty. All of this stuff, right? Without ever actually reading anything. Just going off of the title, 31-day racism rehab. And because I said white women, right? I said who I was speaking to. What it did, as I read the comments, because it's just very interesting. One, it supports everything that we discovered in the program. It shows, okay, that you were actually conditioned to say these things.
Right.
You're conditioned to see it this way. You were conditioned to even read my title the way that you read it. And you don't even realize you were conditioned for that. Right. This is a part of you. It's affected you and it's infected you, just like it has all of us. Right. And the compassion comes in with the understanding of that. Right. That this thing, racism, don't care who you are. right? It's going to infect and affect as many as it can
Right.
to the greatest degree that it can. It's going to condition you in a specific way to be blind to it, so you just leave it alone.
Right.
And I don't care who you are, white, black, brown, I don't care where you're from. I don't care who you are. The system is set up to raise and develop its people that way. Because
Right.
see, we become its people versus it's our system. No, we become
Right.
its people.
Yep.
We are now the servants of that which we've created.
Right.
Right.
I always
And
think of us as like soldiers in the white supremacy war without even knowing, you know,
yeah.
like we're in this battle. We don't even know we're wearing the uniform.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll fight.
Mm-hmm.
Fight to keep it alive. Fight to even that which harms us and kills us. Mm-hmm. We're fighting for our own poison.
Mm-hmm.
Which, like, and that's across the board. Like racism, I don't think we understand how racism has literally crawled in and through everything that we do, to include capitalism and how it's set up, our water, right, which is now poisoned, right, our food, which is now poisoned, our air, which is now poisoned. All of that stuff, you might want to nitpick and go, no, this from this, but I bet you we can trace everything back to how this country began, because that is the seed for every fruit that we see today. Yeah. We can trace it back to then.
Yes. Yes.
About how life was valued then.
Yes.
It's showing up in the fruit now.
Yes.
About what the construct of the mind was then, that they actually put into systems. Like those were our first computers. Like just like we put all of our data into these computers so we can pull it up, they put all the data into laws, legislation, systems. It's just that it's not this thing that we're talking on, right? They did it through paper. Those were the first computers, paper, pencil, whatever, tablets, whatever.
Scrolls,
scrolls. Those were the first computers, right? That set everything into place. That's where you put in everything that we how things are going to run, how the systems are going to run, what talks to what, right?
Yeah.
And whenever somebody see a protest, a certain type of people see a protest, then they think it's a virus, and they go to work on behalf of that, on behalf of that system. They go to work trying to wipe that virus out, even if they have to murder, kill, hang.
Yes.
Right. And
as if I saw something that said that 17-year-old in Wisconsin was going to protect businesses. And the idea that people are in the streets because their bodies are not safe, their lives, their breath in their lungs are not secure, and that the largely unfounded concern about violence against businesses warrants coming out and taking more life.
Yeah.
And that like just from a
common sense.
Yeah, common sense, or like that we have so eroded like education that like that just ethically is unsound. Right? Like from an ethical perspective, that is not sound
and
logic.
It's unsustainable. It's unsustainable.
No.
Because if you kill your customers, the business doesn't matter. Like you don't need business when you're murdering your consumers.
Right.
So it's not, yeah.
It just doesn't, it's like
It's not a
Yeah, it feels
sustainable plan. Like he needs
right.
to go back to school and figure that out. It's not a
Right.
sustainable plan.
No.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Do you have anything that top of mind that you want to offer for ways or yeah, thoughts on how we can relate differently, even though we're still having to grapple with this beast called racism?
Mm. So many things are in my head, and I just want to, I want people to be haunted by the idea that it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. And it's always been this way, and it just doesn't have to be. And that what I wish every, at least white person would say is, what do I need to do? What can I do? What's here for me that I can do to stop allowing myself to be used in this way? And if we could just wake up to the idea that we have been trained inadvertently, like we did not mean to be trained. I don't believe that most of our parents sent us to school intentionally trying to train us. They were trained as well. But like we are pawns in this game. And the only way for it to change is for us to be less useful pawns. And I want people to be far less concerned with perception of their racism and far more concerned with how to be less of a pawn. And that means watching movies, it means reading books, it means building relationships, it means paying people to educate you about the things you don't know about. It means being brave, you know, but like there's at any moment, any white person with more than, you know, some ground beneath their feet has the resources to take a step every day in the direction of good. And I hear your call about, you know, this one person not changing really anything. But if tens and hundreds and thousands and maybe millions of us stop being such good soldiers, this will be different.
Yeah, it'll definitely allow the system to fall faster
Yes.
versus it being put on life support and constantly
Right.
pumped.
And I think the life support is like, we see this all the time with white women when we're fighting for, you know, the ends of these systems in dysfunctional ways. And we're abusing, you know, Black leadership, and we're creating our own organizations because we don't think they're organized enough. And we're, you know, talking over people in meetings. Like that is the final, like, grip where we're holding it together without even meaning to, while we think we're tearing it apart. And that's where I think your work is precisely useful for people who are at risk for that, because we want to do good. And at that last moment before we actually really have it together, we get like almost violent, well, sometimes violent about how we're doing it. And we do more harm. And that, I think it's like, we don't even realize we're still holding the system together.
Yes, thank you for that. I am good. That was really good. And I really don't need to add anything to it. I do want to challenge people though. And it doesn't really, this isn't even about the challenge, isn't aimed towards race at all. However, again, we know why I keep saying white women, and we keep talking about whiteness, because let me just reiterate again for those of you who don't know. And it is set up for you not to know. But according to the census, white people make up over 76%. Black people make up 13.4%. Do the math. And
Yep.
then you'll understand why we are gearing this towards white people.
Yep.
Because if we were just talking, if we want to take it into business, which seems to be very important to people, we want to take it into business. If you own 76% of a business, would you wait around while it's being burned down and torn down and falling apart? Would you say, well, I can't do anything about it because that 13% over there need to get it together, and you own 76% of the company, and you have the power within your hands to make decisions and choices and change things? So there you have it. For those of you who think we're saying white because we're racist, no, it's because we know math. We understand math.
Good math. Yeah.
That's all it is. We're not rocket scientists, but we do understand the difference between 76% and 13%. There you have it.
Yep.
Thank you all for joining us today. And we will be back with the hard conversations. I believe that we'll be back tomorrow. I'm not going to promise that. But I believe we will be back tomorrow with another hard conversation. At least we have it scheduled. Now, if something crazy happens between now and then and I have a meltdown, then I might be Christy going, girl, I'm sorry, I have to cry all day today. Because I'm going to tell you, these losses take a toll. So when you see those memes that go around that says your Black friend is not okay, believe that.
Yeah.
There's only so much trauma someone can take in. We want to be up on the news and aware of what's going on in the world. But when everything you see that's going on, most of what you see bad, that's harmful, that's going on in the world, or that you see on video revolves around one of your community, somebody who looks like you, like your brother, like your mother, like your sister, like your aunt, being harmed, killed, hung, beaten, jailed, right? Falsely accused, all of that. Yeah, that gets to be much. Those are little traumas that add up to big traumas. Constantly being traumatized and re-traumatized, and then have to go on feeds and see where people are justifying it.
Right.
So saying on feeds that, hey, that life wasn't worth us arguing about. That life wasn't worth us changing our lives. That life wasn't worth us doing anything different. That life was dispendable. That life, those things are, they're little traumas that just keep hitting us every which way. And I do my best to keep myself centered and clear. I do, my spiritual practice, which I need to up the ante on that just to keep myself like, you're right. And the key for me as a Black person, and I think now I'm speaking to my community, don't use tools to blind, numb, and abase yourself. Whether that be the drug of pills, the drug of street drugs, alcohol, religion. Let me say that one again. Religion. If you're utilizing those things, especially religion, that's your spiritual practice. Whatever your spiritual practice is, if you're utilizing that to take yourself out of the human experience, to take yourself out of the world so that you don't have to feel it, you don't have to empathize, especially if you're to the point where you've used this so much to where you're now saying that those lives don't matter, that maybe if they follow the law or they shouldn't run, or if you're starting to say things like that, that is a part of the sickness from being in the lineage of the enslaved. Those are learned behaviors. Go look up Stockholm Syndrome. That'll help you understand what the side effects of all of this trauma has had on the Black community. So don't misuse any tool, because we cannot numb ourselves out of, we can't pray ourselves out of, we can't spiritualize ourselves out of the human experience. We can't do it. And because we can't do that, it's important that we all stay connected, because we need each other to remind us of what human is and to keep fighting to become more human every day.
Mm.
So that's it for me. Thank you all for joining us. 31-day racism rehab will be starting again on the 1st, which is Tuesday. So you can find that link on my Facebook page, which is Hard Conversations with Queen. And I also will put it in the link of this video. So thank you all for joining us again. And we will more than likely see you tomorrow, unless, like, you know, what the old people say, if the something in the creek don't rise. I can't remember what it is, but anyway, right?
Yeah.
Or Lord willing, all of
Yeah.
those things.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Good night.
Thanks,
or good
Queen.
afternoon.
Yes.